This video introduces chiasms in the New Testament, and I give you some different tools and ways about thinking about and detecting chiasms therein, and you get a little bit of practice doing so at the end. So what a chiasm is a literary structuring technique wherein different words, passages, or ideas are repeated at different points in the passage. So in any chiasm, you're going to have the beginning and the ending looking the same. This in and of itself with an A and an A prime, this little apostrophe here we call the prime, would be an inclusio. So if you did not have B, B, and C, and we had something repeated at the beginning, at the end, this is what we call an inclusio. A chiasm is a little bit more than that. It's sort of a filled out inclusio where you have more elements inside of the inclusio. So here we would have an idea, word or phrase repeated, and then at the center we might have another word that's a single word or another word or phrase that is repeated. And the reason that this is called a chiasm is that when you start to structure this like this looks like the outside of the letter X or the Greek letter chi. So if we were to mirror our structure here, you would see that we get an X, which is where chiasm takes its name from. We get other names for this as well. So you'll see it also called concentric arrangement or ring composition in your commentaries or in any books on the New Testament that you might read. All of these are referring to this same structuring technique. And so what we have is this parallelism here, starting with the outside moving inwards. And then at the center is where we have our focal point. So the sort of purpose of a chiasm is to focus one's attention onto that central point or points. And so as I say here, there may be more than one of these focal points. So you could have two C's, or you could continue this on to go to D, E, F. And at the center, you could have more than one focal point. To give us an example of this from the brilliant Dr. Seuss, we have my hat is old, my teeth are gold, I have a bird I like to hold, my shoe is off, my foot is cold, my shoe is off, my foot is cold, I have a bird I like to hold. My hat is old, my teeth are gold, and now my story is all told. So all of this right here is going to be our chiasm, and let's look at how this is structured using our X here. So we have our two little fellows put up there, and on the outside, the sort of inclusio portion, we have my hat is old, my teeth are gold, paralleled or repeated 2 times to form our outer structure of the chiasm. And we're moving one step in. We have I have a bird I like to hold, and then at the center our focal point, and in this case a double focal point insofar as the same phrase is repeated, is my shoe is off, my foot is cold. So in this case, we have a very obvious chiasm, and this is where I want to move over to some strategies for thinking about chiasms and finding chiasms in the New Testament. And I want to start by saying they are absolutely a real thing. They are there in the New Testament. You can find them. They're this elegant structuring device, and when you find it, you sort of, it's one of those aha moments. So there's a bit of joy in finding them. And the reason that chiasms are effective, as in the case with Dr. Seuss, is because they tend to be pretty obvious. So in the case of what we just saw here, the repetitions are exact, and you can very clearly see how Dr. Seuss has structured this little page as a chiasm. And so when we do detect chiasms, we have sort of a way of understanding a passage flow. It really helps us see what the particular purpose of a select passage is, usually a very short select passage, and that can really inform our interpretation. It's sort of a hint as to what the author might be suggesting is particularly important or what we should particularly focus on. But there are also some dangers in sort of looking for and finding chiasms, and oftentimes these boil down to finding them everywhere, what is sometimes called parallelomania, where you are looking for something in a text and then you start to see it everywhere. And sometimes you'll find that interpreters force this chiastic structure onto a text when it may not actually be there. So they find them where they are not. And then that has the danger of misinforming interpretation insofar as then we focus on something that maybe is not supposed to be the focal point. We sort of force our attention onto something that may not deserve quite as much attention as the author meant it to. And so the last few principles here sort of to mitigate against this parallelomania or finding chiasms everywhere is that if it's a stretch, if you're sort of looking at a passage and you think, oh, this could maybe be a chiasm, but it's a stretch in this way and that way, then it's probably not a chiasm. Usually chiasms are pretty obvious because they are difficult to construct, they tend to be limited in length. So you see them be a handful of verses at most. There are larger passages and sometimes even entire books that are constructed chiastically, but that takes a whole lot of mental effort, work, and sort of preparation and outlining. And so if you think you're seeing a chiasm in something that's much larger and you're having to sort of justify why things relate to each other over and over again, if it's a stretch, it's probably not a chiasm. So let's take some of these principles and sort of our newfound knowledge of what chiasms are and move to a little game here. So one of my favorite games on Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, the NPR quiz show game, is Bluff the Listener, where you have one real story and two false stories. In this case, we're going to flip that a little bit. We're going to have 2 real chiasms and 1 fake chiasm. So what I want you to do here is go ahead and pause the video, take a look at these 3 different New Testament passages, 2 from the Gospels and 1 from Paul, and see if you can determine which 2 of the 3 are chiasms and which one of the 3 is not, in fact, a chiasm. All right, let's go ahead and take a look here. So we'll get our passages back up. And in all 3 passages, we do have some repetitions and perhaps some parallelism. So in our passage from John 3:16, we have God repeated, we have the world repeated 3 times over, and we have Son repeated twice. But you'll notice here that we maybe don't have so much of an order to our repetitions, that there's, when we highlight it with these different colors, it doesn't sort of stand out in a way where things are coming to a single focal point. We would want something more like another yellow down in here to make our focal point towards, let's see if I can get my highlighter here, towards right here. Our next passage, Matthew 13, we have a repetition of heart, we have a repetition of ears, and we have a repetition of eyes. So you can see in this case how we do have the outsides paralleled, and as we move in, they continue to be paralleled so that our focus is on the eyes and on looking. And lastly, in Colossians chapter 3, we have life repeated, we have Christ in the middle there, and then this is the place where we have maybe a little bit of a stretch. This is maybe where we should start to be a little suspicious. We have hidden and revealed, sort of 2 ideas that are similar to one another as far as they are opposite, something that is hidden and something that is revealed. So to put this into our chiastic structure, I would suggest that Matthew chapter 13, verse 15 is a very, very clear chiastic structure. This is one case where we can be pretty certain that we do in fact have a chiasm. In Colossians chapter 3, it's a little bit more of a stretch, but I think you can make a good case. And the stretch is really only with respect to what we have at the beginning with the A and the A prime, you have died and shall be revealed in glory. We have sort of the idea that when you have died, if you are in Christ and God, you are revealed in glory. So there's maybe some sort of ideological overlap there, but that's where there's one stretch. And then the other stretch, as we already mentioned, is with C and C prime. This business about being hidden and revealed are similar but opposites. But our other parallels are pretty strong with Christ and your life, where we can really sort of see those parallels that are sort of making this chiastic structure, which focus the attention on being with Christ in God. So Our last one, John 3, I would suggest we do not have a chiastic structure whatsoever. If you found a chiasm in there, that may be because it is sometimes easy or it's fun to try to find these kinds of things and force the structure onto the passage. But John 3 was simply picked at random. And as far as I know, there's not anyone that argues for a chiasm for this particular passage.